Hello everyone, and welcome to session 2. In session 2, we will be discussing our ISO standard. My name is Frank Fasano. I'm the Director of Quality. I'm also your management rep. Now we have 2 certifications or 2 registrations at Dymantec, and those registrations are ISO 13485 2016 and ISO 9001 2015. I'm going to play for you a overview of the 1345-2016 standard. Now, what's great about the 1345 standard, its medical standard, is that it incorporates 100% of what is in 9001. But then there are additional things added because this standard is for medical devices, medical products. This is what allows us to sell to our medical customers for them to incorporate our components or component assemblies into their higher assemblies and sell them in the medical market. Now this training is through Calypso, and Calypso we use for certifying our lead auditors in the 1345 standard. It's a great training. It's an overview only. It's slightly dry, but I'm going to ask you to please pay special attention. This will be a part 1 and part 2. In part 1, this will be the Calypso video, and in part 2, I'm going to have a very short demonstration through a PowerPoint of just showing pictures of all the things that we're doing that are having us meet and comply with the standard. So with no ado here, I'm just going to start the video. Again, a little dry, but please concentrate on this, and I think the payoff will be good when you see part 2 and you can understand all the things that we're doing to comply with the standard. I'm going to share my screen, and now I'm going to start the video.
Thank you for choosing CalISO Corporation for your training needs. This short video clip is presented to introduce you to the requirements of ISO 1345 2016. What is ISO 1345? ISO 1345 specifies requirements for a quality management system that can be used by an organization involved in one or more stages of the life cycle of a medical device, including design and development, production, storage and distribution, installation and servicing, and final decommissioning and disposal of medical devices. The requirements of ISO 1345 can also be used by suppliers or other external parties providing products such as raw materials, components and subassemblies, medical devices, sterilization services, calibration services, distribution services, as well as maintenance services. It is not the intent of ISO 1345 to imply the need for uniformity to the structure of the standard. In ISO 1345, the following terms or phrases are used. When a requirement is qualified by the phrase as appropriate, it is deemed to be appropriate unless the organization can justify otherwise. When the term risk is used, the application of the term within ISO 1345 pertains to safety or performance requirements of the medical device or meeting applicable regulatory requirements. When a requirement is required to be documented, it is also required to be established, implemented, and maintained. When the term product is used, it can also mean service. Product applies to output that is intended for or required by a customer or any intended output resulting from a product realization process. When the term regulatory requirements is used, it encompasses requirements contained in any law applicable to the user of ISO 1345. ISO 1345 also uses the following verbs. Shall indicates a requirement. Should indicates a recommendation. May indicates a permission. And can indicates a possibility or a capability. Section 1 is the scope. ISO 1345 specifies requirements for a quality management system where an organization needs to demonstrate its ability to provide medical devices and related services that consistently meet customer and applicable regulatory requirements. The processes required by ISO 1345 that are applicable to the organization but are not performed by the organization, such as outsourced processes, are the responsibility of the organization and are accounted for in the organization's quality management system by monitoring, maintaining, and controlling those processes. If any requirement in Clause 6, 7, or 8 of ISO 1345 is not applicable due to the activities undertaken by the organization or the nature of the medical device for which the quality management system is applied, the organization does not need to include such a requirement in its QMS. For any clause that is determined to be not applicable, the organization must include a justification. Section 2 is references. ISO 9000-2015, Quality Management Systems, Fundamentals, and Vocabulary are the references used in this standard. Section 3 is Terms and Definitions. While the terms and definitions of ISO 9000 apply, there is a specific list of additional terms and definitions for medical devices found in this section. Section 4 is where the requirements begin. 4.1 General Requirements. This section details the requirements of the quality management system. There are quite a few shells in section 4.1.1 through 4.1.6, and I will briefly touch on all of them since they are the foundation of why and how you establish, implement, and maintain a successful quality management system. The organization shall document the quality management system and maintain its effectiveness. The organization shall establish, implement, and maintain procedures, activities, or arrangements required by ISO 1345 or applicable regulatory requirements. ISO 1345 lists a total of 20 documented procedures, 7 documented arrangements, and 1 documented requirement. Organization shall document roles undertaken by the organization. In other words, what type of business are you? The organization shall determine the processes needed for the quality management system and the application of processes throughout the organization. The organization shall apply a risk-based approach to control processes needed for the quality management system. They shall also determine the sequence and interaction of those processes. For each quality management system process, the organization shall determine the criteria and method needed to ensure that processes are effective, ensure the availability of resources, implement actions necessary to achieve planned results, monitor, measure, and analyze the processes as appropriate, establish and maintain records needed to demonstrate conformance to the requirements of ISO 1345 and other applicable regulatory requirements. And there are a total of 43 required records within ISO 1345. Should changes need to be made to the quality management system processes, the processes shall be evaluated for their impact on the quality management system, evaluated for the impact on the medical device, and controlled. Outsourced processes shall also be controlled, and the controls shall include written quality agreements. The organization shall establish a documented procedure for validation of computer software used in the quality management system. Software validation shall be proportionate to the risk associated with the use of the software. Documentation requirements. The quality management system shall include a quality policy and quality objectives, a quality manual that shall include scope and detail of exclusions and justifications, documented procedures or reference to them, and a description of the interaction between the process of the quality management system, or in other words, a process flowchart. While this is not a new requirement, it was found in 4.2 of the 2003 standard as an additional requirement for medical devices. It's now very specific and detailed as to what is required in this medical device file, otherwise known as a device master record. There shall be a general description, intended use or purpose, labeling and instructions for use, specifications for the product, instructions for manufacturing, packaging, storage, and distribution, procedures for measuring and monitoring, installation requirements, and servicing requirements as appropriate. Control of documents. Documents required by the quality management system shall be controlled. A documented procedure shall be written to ensure that all requirements are addressed, including the requirement to prevent deterioration or loss of documents. In other words, it's not acceptable to keep your documents or records in a cardboard banker box. Control of records. Records shall be maintained to provide evidence of conformity to the requirements and the effective operation of the quality management system. A documented procedure shall be written to ensure that all requirements are addressed, including protection of confidential health information. ISO is now requiring compliance with HIPAA, which is an acronym for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. HIPAA is a United States law that protects medical records of patients. The law also protects how information is provided by health insurance companies, doctors, hospitals, and other medical institutions. The organization shall retain records for at least the lifetime of the medical device or as specified by applicable regulatory requirements, but not less than 2 years from the medical device release. This provides confidence of traceability should there be any kind of problem with the device. Section 5 defines the requirements of top management to ensure that top management actively participates in the quality management system. 5.1 is management commitment. Top management must not only develop and implement a quality management system, but also maintain its effectiveness. 5.2, customer focus. The purpose of customer focus is to ensure customer requirements are determined and met. A quality policy must be established. It must be applicable to the organization. It must provide a framework for establishing quality objectives. And it needs to be communicated and understood within the organization. Planning covers quality objectives. Quality objectives must be established at relevant functions. and they must be measurable and consistent with the quality policy. Responsibility, authority, and communication. Responsibilities and authorities must be clearly defined and documented, such as in an organizational chart. A management representative must be appointed and shall be responsible for the effectiveness of the quality management system. Top management is also responsible for internal communication. Communication regarding the effectiveness of the quality management system. There also needs to be management review meetings. Top management shall review the quality management system at documented, planned intervals to ensure its continuing suitability. The review shall also include assessing opportunities for improvement and the potential need for change to the quality management system. Section 6 is resource management. By resources, we mean everything that makes a company a business, such as people, buildings, equipment, basically anything that is needed to make the product or service. Top management must manage the resources as well as the infrastructure so that a quality product can be produced. If any of these requirements do not apply to your organization, you may exclude them from your quality management system as indicated in the scope. But remember, if you exclude a requirement, you must provide a justification. 6.1, provision of resources. The organization shall determine and provide resources to implement the quality management system, maintain its effectiveness, and meet regulatory and customer requirements. 6.2, human resources. The organization shall document the process for establishing competence, which means that the organization needs to determine the competence for personnel performing work affecting quality. They need to provide training to maintain competency and evaluate the effectiveness of that training. And they need to ensure that the personnel are aware of how they contribute to customer satisfaction as well as the achievement of the quality objectives. 6.3 is infrastructure. The organization shall document the requirements for the work environment needed to achieve product conformity, which includes how to prevent mix-ups and ensure orderly handling of product. 6.4 is work environment and contamination control. The organization shall document the requirements for the work environment needed to achieve product conformity. Contamination control. As appropriate, the organization shall plan and document arrangements to control contaminated products to prevent contamination of the work environment, personnel, or product. And this could occur if a medical device is returned after it has been used. Also, as appropriate, the organization shall document requirements for control of contamination during assembly or packaging of sterile devices. So in other words, clean room requirements. Section 7 is product realization. Product realization is how a company realizes the product, how your product comes to life, and how it will be delivered to your customer. There are 29 subclauses in this section, far too many to discuss in detail, so I will briefly list them. 7.1, planning of product realization. Again, how you plan to make your product happen. 7.2, customer-related processes. Simply stated, it is contract review and ensuring that you are able to meet your customers' requirements. 7.3, design and development, starts with planning and covers inputs, outputs, verification, validation, design transfer to manufacturing, as well as a requirement for a design and development file. 7.4 is purchasing, and it covers a couple of different areas. One is supplier evaluation, monitoring, and reevaluation. Another is purchasing information and the need to include a written agreement regarding notification of change of products and also verification of purchased product. So in other words, incoming inspection. And that incoming inspection should be based on the supplier evaluation and proportionate to the risks associated with that product. Section 7.5 is production and service provision. It is the largest section of 7.0 and actually contains 12 subclauses, which is almost half of all the subclauses found in 7.0. This section contains specific requirements for everything from controlling the production to ensure product conforms to specifications to preservation of product. And lastly, but not least importantly, 7.6, which is control of monitoring and measuring equipment, otherwise known as calibrated equipment. If any of these requirements do not apply to your organization, you may exclude them from your quality management system as indicated in the scope. But again, remember, if you exclude a requirement, you must provide a justification. Section 8, Measurement, Analysis, and Improvement. This section talks about how to improve not only the product, but the process by which it is manufactured. Also, this section addresses how to improve your quality management system. 8.1 General. The organization shall plan and implement the monitoring, analysis, and improvement processes needed to demonstrate product conformity, ensure the conformity of the quality management system, and maintain the effectiveness of the quality management system. 8.2 Monitoring and Measurement. Feedback. There needs to be a documented procedure for feedback, and feedback needs to be considered as a potential input into risk management of the product. Complaints. There needs to be a documented procedure for complaints. The requirements are very similar, if not exactly the same, as the requirements for complaint handling by the FDA. Reporting to regulatory authorities. This requirement is for reporting complaints to the appropriate regulatory authority, such as the FDA, Canada, or your notified body. Internal audits. Internal audits must continue to be planned, implemented, and records maintained. Monitoring and measurement of process. Monitoring the quality management system processes means regular internal audits and management review. Monitoring and measurement of product. There needs to be inspection and/or testing to verify that the product requirements have been met. Control of non-conforming product. Product that does not conform needs to be identified and controlled to prevent its unintended use. Actions in response to non-conforming product detected before delivery. Product can only be accepted if approval is obtained and regulatory requirements are met. Actions in response to non-conforming product detected after delivery. Procedures of issuing advisory notices shall be documented in accordance with regulatory requirements. Rework. Any non-conforming product that has been reworked will be verified to ensure it meets acceptance criteria. Analysis of data. Data needs to be collected and analyzed to demonstrate the suitability of the quality management system. Improvement, which includes corrective action. Corrective actions are taken to eliminate the cause of a nonconformance and must not adversely affect the ability to meet applicable regulatory requirements or the safety and performance of the medical device. Preventive actions are taken to prevent a potential non-conformance and must also not adversely affect the ability to meet applicable regulatory requirements or the safety and performance of the medical device. Thank you for your time. I have found this training to be beneficial.